The most dangerous people in your life will never announce themselves as enemies. They don't raise their voice. They don't challenge you openly. They don't threaten your position. They arrive smiling. They listen before they speak. They mirror your energy. They make you feel seen, understood, and safe, sometimes within minutes. And that sense of comfort is not accidental. It is the first stage of control. Excessive kindness is not always generosity. Very often, it is calculation. Machiavelli warned that true power almost never appears as intimidation. It appears as charm. Those who seek control do not dominate you directly. They study you. They watch how you react. They observe what lowers your guard, what earns your trust, and what makes you feel important. Because once someone understands your psychology, force becomes unnecessary. All they need is timing. Friendliness can be genuine, but Machiavelli understood something most people refuse to accept. Friendliness is also the most effective disguise. It hides ambition, it hides strategy, and it hides intentions that are never spoken aloud. The most skilled manipulators don't pressure you. They agree with you. They encourage you. They validate your thoughts. They make you feel emotionally aligned with them. And slowly, so slowly you don't notice, you begin to trust them more than they've earned. That is not coincidence. That is design. Ask yourself this: who do people reveal secrets to? Who do they open up around? Who do they lower their defenses with? Not the aggressive, not the confrontational, the friendly. Machiavelli wrote that men judge more by appearances than by reality. They trust what they see, not what lies beneath. And those who understand this principle use kindness as a weapon, because no one suspects a blade wrapped in silk. Real manipulation never feels like control. It feels like connection. It feels like support. It feels like loyalty. It feels like someone who just wants the best for you. Until one day you realize something unsettling. They know too much. They influence your decisions. They shape your reactions. They subtly guide your thinking. And you don't remember the moment you handed them that power. This is why Machiavelli awareness is not about becoming cold, cruel, or paranoid. It is about clarity. It is about understanding that not everyone who smiles at you stands with you, and not every friendly gesture is free. Some people are collecting information. Some are positioning themselves. Some are waiting patiently for the moment when influence becomes leverage, and they reveal themselves not through aggression, but through patterns. In this video, you are going to learn 7 warning signs Machiavelli would recognize instantly when someone is too friendly. These signs expose the exact moment kindness stops being genuine and starts becoming strategic. Once you see them, you stop confusing warmth with loyalty. You stop mistaking charm for character. Because real power is not suspicion. Real power is awareness. Before we go deeper, drop this affirmation in the comments. I see hidden intentions. Say it with intention, because from this moment forward, you're not here to be impressed by smiles. You're here to read behavior. Number 1. Excessive praise is a hook. Compliments feel harmless. Encouragement feels supportive. Admiration feels flattering. That is precisely why this tactic works so effectively. Manipulation almost never begins with pressure. It begins with praise. They highlight your strengths before you ever question their motives. They comment on your intelligence, your taste, your potential, your uniqueness. Not randomly, selectively. This is not appreciation. This is assessment. Strategic flattery is designed to activate one thing first, your ego. And when the ego is engaged, critical thinking slows down. You start listening more closely. You start caring about their approval. You begin adjusting your behavior subtly to maintain the image they've reflected back at you. Machiavelli understood this dynamic clearly. He observed that people are most vulnerable when they feel admired. Praise creates emotional elevation. Emotional elevation creates openness, and openness creates access. Notice the pattern.
This kind of admiration often arrives early. It feels slightly exaggerated. It focuses on traits you secretly want recognized. That is not coincidence. That is targeting. A manipulator does not compliment randomly. They compliment strategically. They look for the part of you that craves validation, and they feed it. Once that part feels satisfied, it becomes dependent, and dependency is where influence begins. But there's a deeper layer most people miss. Excessive praise is not meant to make you feel good forever. It is meant to condition you. Once you associate that person with emotional elevation, your mind begins to link their presence with approval, safety, and affirmation. When they speak, you listen. When they suggest, you consider. When they disapprove, even subtly, you feel discomfort. That discomfort becomes a control mechanism. And here's the most dangerous part. When the praise eventually decreases, you don't question them. You question yourself. You try harder. You adjust more. You seek to regain the approval you once received freely. This is how admiration turns into leverage. Machiavelli warned that those who control perception control outcomes. Praise shapes perception, and perception shapes obedience. If someone flatters you before they know you, if admiration arrives too fast, too intensely, too precisely, pause. Because genuine respect grows with time. Strategic praise arrives with intention, and the moment you recognize the difference, the hook loses its power. Number 2, they share secrets too fast. Excessive praise doesn't just inflate the ego, it subtly builds expectation. When someone continuously tells you how capable, wise, or strong you are, they are doing more than complimenting. They are quietly shaping how you should behave around them, guiding your actions to mirror what they admire. Every yes you give feels like affirmation. Every disagreement begins to feel like a transgression. You start performing the version of yourself they prefer, almost unconsciously. Saying no begins to feel like disappointment. Disagreeing feels like breaking alignment. This is control without ever raising a command. Machiavelli warned that those who flatter are rarely loyal. They serve their own interests. Praise is cheap, influence is profitable, and the exchange happens silently, often so subtly that you never realize you've become part of their strategy. Watch how this escalates. First comes admiration, then agreement, then emotional closeness. Finally, suggestion enters the conversation, and by the time advice lands, it already feels trustworthy because it comes from someone who believes in you. But belief can be staged. True respect does not require repetition. Genuine admiration does not need exaggeration. When praise feels constant, intense, or unusually focused, it is no longer about you. It is about access. There is a psychological imbalance created here as well. The person offering praise positions themselves as the observer, while you become the observed. They notice your reactions. Which compliments land hardest? Which words make you relax? Which validations encourage you to open up further? Information is being gathered, and once someone understands what feeds your ego, they also understand how to guide their decisions. This is why Machiavelli thinking treats flattery with caution, not gratitude. Not because praise is always false, but because strategic praise always has a direction. It leads somewhere. It is designed for influence, not connection. Strong individuals don't reject compliments. They simply don't absorb them emotionally. They acknowledge them without attachment. They remain grounded. Their internal balance stays intact. Because the moment your self-worth depends on external admiration, your autonomy weakens, and autonomy is power. Observe behavior, not words. Ask yourself, is the praise consistent with actions? Does it appear before trust is earned? Does it increase when they want something? The answers reveal everything. Before we move on, drop this affirmation in the comments. My ego stays silent. Hold that line firmly, because the more control you have over your own ego, the less control anyone else can take from you. The trap of oversharing, when trust is manufactured. The second warning sign is fast disclosure, sharing personal secrets too quickly. Trust is not built through speed. It is built through time, consistency, and restraint. When someone reveals deeply personal details early, failures, betrayals, private conflicts, emotional wounds, it shouldn't feel comforting. It should feel premature. Yet most people fall into the trap. Rapid disclosure creates the illusion of intimacy. It signals vulnerability. It feels honest. It triggers a psychological reflex, reciprocity. When someone opens up, you feel compelled to do the same, not because you want to, but because it feels socially expected. That expectation is the doorway. Machiavelli understood long before the modern world named it. Information is power. Those who reveal too much too soon are rarely careless. They are strategic. They set a pace that benefits them, not you. Oversharing is rarely spontaneous. It is intentional positioning. When someone discloses sensitive material early, they are testing boundaries. They are watching your reaction. Do you lean in? Do you reassure them? Do you share something equally personal in return? Every response teaches them something, and here lies the genius of the tactic. The power dynamic flips instantly. The person who speaks first appears vulnerable, but the one who listens quietly gains insight. And when insight is unevenly distributed, it creates leverage. Machiavellian awareness recognizes a simple truth. The one who knows more controls the frame. Fast disclosure pressures you into emotional openness before trust exists. It bypasses judgment. It creates a sense of we without foundation. And once that artificial closeness is established, boundaries feel awkward to enforce. This is the trap. Strategic oversharing also establishes moral credit. The sharer appears authentic, brave, transparent. Later, if their behavior raises suspicion, your mind automatically defends them. You assume honesty because you have already granted perceived moral authority. And by the time you notice manipulation, the seeds of influence have already taken root. You tell yourself, they were honest with me. They trusted me. But trust was never earned. It was staged. Watch carefully how this behavior unfolds because it follows a precise sequence. First, they share something personal. Then they emphasize how rarely they open up. Then they highlight how safe they feel around you. That sequence is not emotional coincidence. It is psychological anchoring. Now a silent responsibility has been placed on you. If you pull back, you feel cold. If you stay guarded, you feel unfair. If you create distance, you feel like you've done something wrong. This is not connection. This is pressure. Machiavelli warned against confusing openness with loyalty. Words cost nothing, but information, when exchanged unevenly, costs everything. When someone gives you a secret too soon, they are rarely being generous. They are often buying yours at a discount. And once your vulnerabilities are known, they don't need threats. They don't need force. They use timing. They use suggestion. They use emotional leverage disguised as concern. Suddenly, advice feels personal. Disagreement feels insensitive. Distance feels like betrayal. That is how influence takes root. A disciplined mind understands this truth. Genuine trust unfolds slowly. It is built through consistent behavior over time, not confessions over coffee. Healthy people respect pacing. They allow familiarity to develop naturally. Those who rush closeness are often trying to secure advantage before scrutiny arrives. So observe patterns, not emotions. Do they reveal sensitive details before shared history exists? Do they encourage you to match their level of openness? Do they later reference your disclosures in subtle ways? Jokes, reminders, concern? These signs are not random. Machiavellian strategy does not teach silence. It teaches selectivity. You decide what is shared, when it is shared, and with whom. You protect information until loyalty proves itself through action. Before moving forward, drop this affirmation in the comments. I protect my inner world. Because what you reveal shapes who holds power over you. Number 3, constant agreement is positioning. Alignment feels reassuring. Shared opinions feel validating. When someone mirrors your views perfectly, it creates a sense of unity. And that sensation is exactly why this tactic remains effective. People assume harmony equals honesty. They assume sameness equals sincerity. But calculated alignment has nothing to do with loyalty. It has everything to do with advantage. Those who always echo your beliefs are rarely convinced. They are mapping. Machiavelli observed that intelligent operators seldom expose their true position early. They remain flexible. They adapt. They listen more than they declare. Agreement, when used strategically, becomes camouflage.
It allows someone to blend into your perspective while gathering influence from inside it. Unbroken concurrence should raise questions. Authentic thinkers have friction. They challenge. They disagree. They express nuance. When someone never does, when their responses feel too smooth, too familiar, too aligned, pause. Because mirroring is a method. This technique works by dissolving resistance. When someone consistently reflects your worldview, your mind categorizes them as safe. Opposition disappears. Caution fades. And once your defenses relax, influence becomes effortless. Watch how this unfolds. You share an opinion. They immediately affirm it. You explain your reasoning. They amplify it. Soon, conversations stop feeling like exchanges and start feeling like confirmations. You're no longer thinking critically. You're being reinforced. And reinforcement, when constant, reshapes perception. Machiavellian strategy recognizes that agreement creates access faster than persuasion ever could. Why argue when you can align?
Why confront when you can embed? But there is a deeper layer beneath this behavior. By agreeing repeatedly, they avoid revealing their own framework. Their values remain hidden. Their motives stay untested. Meanwhile, yours become clearer with every conversation. The informational balance tilts quietly. Silence paired with agreement is not neutrality. It is concealment. Those who operate this way are not trying to bond with you. They are positioning themselves inside your mental space. And once someone occupies that space, influence no longer feels external. It feels like your own idea. Number 3, continuation. Subtle guidance through agreement. Once someone has positioned themselves in your mental space, subtle guidance becomes possible. Suggestions no longer feel like directives. Recommendations seem naturally aligned with your thinking. Influence starts to feel mutual, even when it is completely one-sided. This is how direction replaces dialogue. Machiavelli warned that those who adapt too easily often serve themselves first. Flexibility without principle is not openness, it is opportunism. The ability to shift perspectives instantly is a tool, but it is only useful to those seeking advantage. Pay attention to patterns. Do they ever introduce a conflicting idea? Do they challenge you respectfully? Do they express independent judgment? If the answer is no, what appears as harmony may actually be surveillance. Agreement also builds expectation. When someone consistently aligns with you, later disagreement feels jarring. If they eventually oppose you, it carries extra weight. If they remain aligned, you may begin to rely on them for validation. Either outcome benefits them. Dependence quietly forms. Machiavellian awareness teaches skepticism toward perfect symmetry. Real relationships contain contrast. Real loyalty withstands disagreement. Real respect does not demand constant affirmation. Observe behavior over time. Do their opinions sift depending on the audience? Do they mirror others as easily as they mirror you? Do they avoid taking firm positions? These signals reveal adaptive intent. The disciplined individual welcomes dialogue, not echo. They value contrast because it sharpens judgment. They understand that alignment earned through debate is stronger than agreement freely offered. Power favors those who maintain their own center. When you encounter constant agreement, do not confront it. Do not reward it. Slow down. Reduce disclosure. Introduce complexity. Watch how they respond when mirroring becomes difficult. Their reaction tells you everything. Number 4, they offer help without being asked. Generosity feels natural. Support feels reassuring. But when someone steps in before you request anything, it deserves scrutiny. Unsolicited help often disguises power entering a relationship. It is rarely neutral.
Aid offered too early, too often, or without reason subtly reshapes the relationship. It quietly establishes imbalance. One becomes the provider. The other becomes the receiver. And once that dynamic forms, expectations follow, spoken or unspoken. Machiavelli understood that obligation is stronger than force. A favor creates memory. Memory creates pressure. Pressure creates compliance. Not immediately, but eventually. Unrequested assistance is not about solving your problem. It is about creating position. Observe how this begins. They step in quickly. They resolve issues you never asked them to fix. They minimize the effort. It's nothing. They refuse repayment. Nothing about this is accidental. By declining repayment, they keep the account open. A balance remains. And human psychology dislikes imbalance. You begin to feel indebted, even if you never agreed to the exchange. This is where leverage forms. The helper gains moral elevation. They appear generous, capable, reliable. Later, when they request something, attention, agreement, access, it feels reasonable. After all, they have been there for you. But the support was never requested. The debt was never agreed upon. Machiavelli awareness recognizes. Generosity used strategically is not kindness, it is investment. And every investment expects a return. The hidden layer, superiority and framing. Unsolicited help communicates more than assistance. It subtly suggests that you needed intervention, that you were unable to manage alone. Even when delivered politely, the message lands quietly in the background. This reframes roles. They become the problem solver. You become the dependent. Once that frame sets,
autonomy weakens. Decisions start to feel collaborative, even when they shouldn't. Advice carries more weight than it deserves. Resistance feels ungrateful. This is control without confrontation. Strategic help works because it hides leverage inside perceived generosity. It conditions you to accept influence without questioning it. And the more you internalize the dependency, the easier it becomes for them to guide, influence, and subtly manipulate future decisions, all while keeping their motives invisible. That is the hallmark of true Machiavellian strategy. Position before pressure. Influence before force. Observation before command. Number 4, continuation. Timing, vulnerability, and leverage. Watch closely when unsolicited help appears. It rarely arrives at random. It surfaces during moments of vulnerability, stress, confusion, or transition. These are not coincidences. Influence is easiest when stability is disrupted. Machiavelli warned that those who seek dominance rarely display it openly. They build control through obligation, through usefulness, and through appearing indispensable. Once someone feels indispensable, they subtly begin to dictate the rhythm of interaction. This tactic also functions as a boundary test. Do you accept help automatically? Do you feel awkward declining? Do you feel the need to explain yourself when saying no? Every reaction provides information. It tells them how easily you can be guided, how strongly you value approval, how reluctant you are to assert independence. Strong individuals recognize these dynamics early. They appreciate offers, but they choose carefully. They accept only what aligns with their own intent. They repay quickly. They close loops. They do not allow invisible balances to persist, because unfinished exchanges create silent influence. There is also a timing pattern to watch. Notice when assistance increases. Does it happen when you gain opportunity, visibility, momentum? If support rises alongside your value, it may not be support at all. It may be strategic positioning. Machiavellian strategy respects self-sufficiency. It values alliances built on clarity, not obligation. Real cooperation is mutual and transparent. It does not rely on emotional accounting or invisible debts. When help arrives uninvited, pause. Assess motive. Ask yourself what position it creates, not how it feels. You do not need to reject generosity. You need to control the frame. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I own nothing.
The less psychological debt you carry, the harder it is for anyone to control your direction. Number 5. Friendly in public, cold in private. Consistency reveals character. Inconsistency reveals strategy. When someone is warm, engaging, and attentive in public, but distant, detached, or minimal in private, this contrast is not a random mood shift, it is positioning. Public friendliness builds reputation. Private coldness preserves control. This pattern is less about connection, more about image management. In group settings, they perform approachability. They laugh. They compliment. They appear generous with attention. Observers see charm and assume trustworthiness. Social proof does the work for them. But once the audience disappears, so does the warmth. This split behavior generates confusion. You begin to question yourself. Was the friendliness real? Did I imagine the distance? That uncertainty weakens judgment, and weakened judgment makes individuals easier to manage. Machiavellian thinking understands that power is maintained through perception. Appearances shape belief. Belief shapes influence. They control how they are seen publicly, insulating themselves from scrutiny. Any concern you raise later conflicts with the image others have already accepted. That conflict rarely ends in your favor. Public warmth also establishes hierarchy. When they appear benevolent in front of others, they claim moral high ground. When they withdraw privately, they keep emotional leverage. You are left seeking clarity while they remain unreadable. Unreadability is strength. This tactic also discourages confrontation. Calling out cold behavior feels petty when everyone else sees them as kind. You hesitate. You rationalize. You internalize the discomfort instead of addressing it directly. That hesitation benefits them. Observe private interactions carefully. Are conversations brief and controlled? Is emotional depth avoided? If warmth only exists when witnessed, it is not warmth. It is display. Machiavelli warned, those who desire dominance prefer distance. Intimacy reduces leverage. Familiarity invites equality. By limiting private connection, they prevent balance from forming. This distance keeps you guessing. It preserves control. It maintains the silent power structure. Number 5. Continuation. A pull towards their center of control. You may try harder to earn approval. You may question what changed. You may adjust your behavior to regain the warmth and friendliness you witnessed publicly. In doing so, you move closer to their center of control. That effort is rarely noticed or rewarded. Another function of this behavior is deniability. If confronted, they can point to public moments as evidence of goodwill. The private withdrawal becomes your interpretation, not their action. This asymmetry protects them. Pay attention to timing. Does warmth increase when others are present? Does detachment appear when no one is watching? Does praise occur publicly while criticism or silence occurs privately? Patterns matter far more than isolated moments. Machiavellian awareness treats consistent behavior as currency. People who mean well do not compartmentalize kindness. They do not require witnesses to be respectful. They do not perform care selectively. Those who do are managing narrative, not relationships. This strategy also signals emotional economy. They invest attention where it yields visibility. They withdraw where it yields accountability. That calculation reveals priorities. Strong individuals respond by refusing to chase clarity. They do not seek validation from inconsistent sources. They maintain composure. They match energy without explanation. They observe without reacting. Distance neutralizes leverage. When you stop filling the gap, the dynamic changes. Either consistency emerges or intent becomes obvious. Machiavellian discipline values alignment between words, actions, and context. Where alignment breaks, motive appears. Do not confront this pattern emotionally. Do not accuse. Simply adjust access, reduce availability, limit exposure. Watch how behavior shifts when the audience is removed. That response tells you everything you need to know. Number 6. Personal questions disguised as care.
Curiosity can feel harmless. Concern can feel genuine. But when personal questions appear too often, too soon, or under the guise of empathy, they rarely serve you. Instead, they serve the asker. The strategy is subtle. They do not demand answers. They suggest interest. Are you really feeling okay? What made that situation so difficult for you? Do you think that choice was wise? Questions framed like this feel considerate. They feel intimate. They feel safe. And that is precisely the point. Machiavelli recognized that knowledge is leverage. Understanding another person's fears, triggers, insecurities, and motivations allows silent influence. Questions are tools to gather this knowledge, not signs of friendship. The more you reveal, the more access they gain to your psychology. Notice the timing. Are these questions asked during moments of vulnerability? When stress is high? When emotions cloud judgment? When your confidence is slightly shaken? That is rarely coincidence. Manipulators know insight is easiest to collect when defenses are weakened. Also consider frequency. 1 question may be curiosity. 5 repeated inquiries form a pattern. 10 intimate probes form a map. Every question builds a mental dossier without ever seeming intrusive. You rarely notice until the patterns have solidified. Machiavelli's insight teaches, influence begins where awareness ends. When you answer questions, you unconsciously signal what is important to you, what matters to you, where your wounds lie. You reveal weaknesses, insecurities, hopes, and ambitions. That information becomes subtle control over your decisions. The hidden layer, judgment cloaked in concern. There is another layer to observe. Questions disguised as care often include judgment cloaked as concern. Do you really think that was the best decision? Why did that affect you so much? At first, these appear as guidance or curiosity. Later, they subtly guide your self-assessment. They shape how you interpret your own actions. And shaping your perception is the first step towards shaping your behavior. The power of this tactic is invisible. It does not force you. It reprograms your decision-making quietly. It normalizes influence under the guise of empathy. Machiavelli's strategy teaches that awareness of such tactics preserves autonomy. Every question, every probe, every suggestion is a potential vector of influence. Recognizing patterns before they consolidate is how strong individuals maintain control over their inner world. Number 6. Continuation. Strategic curiosity in action. Machiavelli also taught that manipulators rarely operate with overt force. They operate invisibly. They ask questions, they listen intently, they store knowledge. Then, at the right moment, that knowledge is applied, not with aggression, but with influence that feels natural. Observe their body language during these inquiries. Do they lean in? Do they nod? Do they appear fully engaged? That is rehearsal. That is strategy. Attention given selectively reinforces trust, making you more likely to share. Authentic care does not require constant adjustment. Strategic curiosity does. Consider their pattern outside these conversations.
Do they reference your answers in unrelated discussions? Do they connect details you shared to new opportunities or conversations? That is subtle leverage. They are demonstrating awareness of your internal landscape, signaling influence without confrontation. Strong individuals respond by maintaining discretion, answer minimally, redirect when appropriate, protect key details.
They understand that emotional transparency is not obligation. They recognize that curiosity disguised as care is often camouflage for control. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My boundaries are untouchable. Remember, every detail you reveal shapes the dynamics. The more you protect your inner world, the less others can manipulate it. Awareness does not create distance from connection. It creates strength within connection. Number 7. Friendliness linked to your value. True character is often revealed not in ordinary circumstances, but in how people respond to your value. When someone's warmth intensifies as your status, success, or influence rises, it is rarely coincidental. What appears as admiration may actually be strategic positioning. Observe the pattern carefully. At first, interactions are polite, even indifferent. You exchange pleasantries, test boundaries, gauge mutual interest. Then, as your capabilities or opportunities expand, their attention grows, compliments increase, invitations appear, flattery becomes more frequent. Suddenly, friendliness feels abundant, too abundant. Machiavelli understood that human alliances are often transactional. Relationships are rarely built purely on emotion. They are constructed for gain. The more useful you become, the more appealing you are to others seeking advantage. This behavior is subtle yet powerful. It works because people rarely question intentions. When attention feels rewarding, you may feel seen, appreciated, understood. That validation is intoxicating. It lures you into compliance, alignment, or trust you might otherwise withhold. The psychology behind conditional friendliness. Notice the psychology here. They are calibrating. They adjust warmth based on perceived benefit. When you are valuable, they invest emotionally. When your usefulness diminishes, warmth recedes. Affection is no longer constant. It is contingent. Your worth determines access to their energy, interest, and support. There is another mechanism at play: social proof and influence. Public attention towards you signals that someone is important. When combined with friendliness, observers may interpret it as deep connection, genuine admiration. You become a figure of interest, and they benefit from association. In private, however, that same warmth may retreat, revealing that their engagement is guided more by strategy than authentic attachment. This creates a psychological trap. You begin to equate value with acceptance. You may push harder to maintain relevance, seek approval, perform behaviors aligned with their desires. Gradually, autonomy is influenced by the feedback loop created by conditional friendliness. Machiavelli awareness teaches, friendship and warmth are not always signs of loyalty. They can be tools of influence, contingent upon your perceived utility. Influence, not partnership, becomes the operating principle. Machiavelli warned that transactional alliances often masquerade as emotional ones. He observed that people will always act according to self-interest. Recognizing this is critical. Not everyone who is kind to you is a friend. Many are observers, quietly aligning themselves with your trajectory for potential benefit. Pay attention to escalation. Does the intensity of attention rise with your achievement, visibility, or capability? Does warmth appear when your contributions serve their goals? Does it diminish when your influence wanes or your value no longer serves their objectives? The answers to these questions reveal motive. The disciplined individual responds not with emotion but with observation. They note patterns without judgment. They remain strategically detached, understanding that conditional warmth reveals priorities, not friendship. They continue engaging on their own terms, independent of how others measure their usefulness. This principle also underscores the importance of self-sufficiency. Influence gained through transactional favor is fragile. Power derived from alignment with others' interests is temporary. Awareness of these dynamics ensures that your decisions remain yours, not dictated by the ebb and flow of conditional attention. Machiavellian insight teaches that independence is a shield. Conditional kindness should be recognized as leverage, not loyalty. Your value does not obligate reciprocity. Your competence does not require submission. Recognizing manipulation disguised as camaraderie preserves autonomy. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control my worth.
Understanding conditional behavior transforms relationships into clarity. You no longer misinterpret flattery, attention, or selective warmth as unconditional support. Awareness allows influence to be recognized, evaluated, and resisted when necessary. True power emerges from recognizing motives before emotions cloud judgment. Not everyone who smiles at you is your ally. Some are just waiting for opportunity, waiting for leverage, waiting for the moment when your trust or vulnerability becomes their advantage. Machiavelli understood that appearances are the most potent tools in social strategy. People respond to what they see, not what they suspect. A friendly face can conceal ambition, manipulation, and calculated intent. Power rarely announces itself with noise. It moves quietly, invisibly, often under the guise of support or admiration. That's why awareness is essential. Awareness does not mean paranoia. It does not mean rejecting every gesture of kindness or doubting every interaction. Awareness means understanding context. Every smile, every compliment, every favor has meaning. Some are genuine, some are calculated. The difference lies in the patterns, the timing, and the alignment of actions versus intention. Observe behavior, not words. Observe patterns, not isolated incidents. Ask yourself, when does their warmth increase? When does it disappear? What do they gain when they offer help or praise? Most importantly, what do they seek when you reveal too much? Machiavelli taught, knowledge is power, and influence begins with understanding the motives behind every gesture. Remember, relationships are rarely equal. Some are transactions disguised as friendship. Some are alliances built on leverage. Some are partnerships cloaked in charm. The wise do not confuse appearances with reality. They do not surrender judgment to emotion. They measure actions against outcomes and align themselves with truth, not facade. True power is not gained by distrust alone. It is gained through perception, clarity, and the ability to navigate social landscapes without being ensnared by superficial charm. By recognizing who is strategic and who is sincere, you maintain control over your decisions, your boundaries, and your mind. So when someone acts too friendly, do not react emotionally. Do not assume intentions are pure. Observe, analyze, record patterns. Protect your inner world. Allow warmth and trust to be earned over time, not gifted freely. Your awareness is your weapon. Your discipline is your shield. Your ability to read motives before emotions cloud judgment is the difference between being influenced and being untouchable. If you want to master social power, sharpen your observation. Learn to see through behavior, not words. And always remember, the world is not kind, it is strategic. And now, so are you.